Tesla has been sharing the idea of self-driving cars for years now, and in some ways it is finally here, in others maybe not as much, but the question has arisen, is it actually fraud? I am of the opinion that it is not, to save you some time and potential risk of clickbait, but let's get into it anyway, because these are real arguments people are really being told. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. Joining me, as he so often does, is my good friend Herbert from Brighter with Herbert. It's a fantastic channel. Go check it out. He gets some fantastic interviews with fantastic people, including actual astronauts. That is very, very cool. So the Washington Post, always a friendly outlet.
Yeah.
Tesla sells self-driving cars. Is it fraud? A series of investigations focus on whether Tesla fraudulently marketed cars' capabilities. Tesla claims the term doesn't mean what you think it means. Washington Post, just quality. And again, I point this out, low is a type of quality. A growing number of investigations and legal complaints are targeting full self-driving, but also the term autopilot. Let's start with the easy one. Autopilot doesn't mean you are not in charge. The pilot of the plane that you are in is still in charge of the plane that you are in, whether or not autopilot is engaged. Planes have been using forms of autopilot, using even that term, for over 100 years. It has existed for a long, long time because it just makes flying easier. But let's talk about FSD. And we've got a little thing here. I guess I should show that a little bit. A growing number of investigations have been targeting FSD. And of course, this is the Washington Post. It is pretty terrible. So, let's pretend for a minute it's not terrible. Let's pretend that it's that this is something worthy of actual discussion. Do you think it's fraud?
You're going to ask me straight out, do I think it's fraud?
Straight out. Is it fraud? Let's get it out of the way.
Well, right now, it is absolutely no fraud at all today, right? The car drives itself. You and I both have FSD in our cars. When my brother first started, me talking to him about this in 2021, when I was one of the early users of FSD, when it first came out and allowed people like me and you to play with it, he said, it'll never happen in my lifetime. And he was dead certain about that. And then just 3 months ago, he himself has it now in his car. And he said, it's definitely happening now. I could see it happening now, just a few more edge cases to take care of. So even he had thought that if you were claiming that this car can drive itself 3 years ago, he would tell you it's fraud based on his definition that it just can never happen. But now, it's not fraud now because it really is happening, and everybody who sees it, steps in a car, butts on seats, watches it. It's hard for them to say at this point that this is fraud because it's physically there. You have millions of cars, right? Couple million. What do you think the number actually is, right? That actually has full self-driving in it. You can actually buy it for just 1 month if you wanted to.
And you didn't have to buy it for a month because when version 11 came out, you got a free trial of it. So you could see for yourself. But, I was deeply skeptical of version 11. It didn't work very well where I lived. Yeah. And then version 12 came out. And the first thing I said in the car with my testing crew of children was, it works. It just works. Now, I have seen places in my road tripping across the country, thousands and thousands of miles, that there are places where it does not work as well. But we are still not on version 12, the end-to-end for the highway stack yet. That's expected to come with 12.5, I believe. And that, I assume, will give us another new level of excitement. Now, what this brings up, though, is not you and I, and it's not you and I today. It's people who got to see it before. When there was the commercial that came out.
Yeah.
Where
they're referring to that clip that Tesla released really early on, and they showed that the car can drive by itself and all that. And now they're suing Tesla because they're saying that there was a lot of misleading. It wasn't able to accomplish that at the time.
Federal officials have focused on it, at least in part, on a 2016 marketing video where it said the person in the driver's seat is only there for legal reasons.
Mm-hmm.
He is not doing anything. The car is driving itself. Now, I don't know about this. This is the first time hearing of this. A Tesla official later acknowledged that the video was staged and the car, in fact, crashed during filming. Now, I had not heard that before. If anyone has information about that being anything other than a unverified single source rumor, and we do know that Elon had shared some terse words in front of his biographer, who did publish them. But that book, I assume, went through the usual fact checking. It was something where if Elon were to say that I never said that, he would have said that. I think Elon acknowledges that there are shortcomings, that there have been shortcomings. But let's talk about those people, the people who bought it in 2017, 2018, 2019, bought a car in good faith, owned it for years, drove it 100, 200,000 miles before selling it, and never got the thing that was always promised. Maybe promise is too strong of a word, but we were told over and over, maybe the end of this year, definitely the end of next year.
Right.
And it didn't happen.
Yeah.
For those people, do they have a right to be frustrated?
Well, definitely frustrated. Absolutely. In the sense that they knew that it wasn't working at the time. I don't know anybody who said, "Oh, it's autopilot. It must be already working today." But they were expecting maybe a year, 2 years that it was going to come. That part is I think there's some people who are definitely frustrated about that. Do they have the right to sue and get their money back? I don't know. I mean, it depends on the legal, all the fine print. I'm pretty sure Tesla was careful about the fine print that they put in on how it truly was positioned.
I would agree entirely. We were told always that the reason the price is what it is today is because it's not finished. Mm-hmm. If it was finished, the price would be different. And I understood that. I know you understood that. I can see how some people might not have understood it. There is a legal test called an idiot in a hurry. And it might be a moron in a hurry. If a moron in a hurry can make that mistake, that's not your fault, that's theirs. But if they're remotely smart, or at least kind of paying attention, even if they're very, very dumb, they would know what's going on. They wouldn't think that autopilot means that you don't need a steering wheel anymore. And we've seen countless articles over the last 5 years where tech authors conflate autopilot with FSD, don't know anything about the versions, don't know anything about really the capabilities of either software system, and yet that's somehow Tesla's fault. So I don't know.
Well, to be clear, right? Autopilot was a term that they used for the highway driving. Right. And I wanted to make sure that people understood this. When you take those clips of Elon talking about autopilot in 2016, 17, and 18 even, he was referring to highways. He was saying, and guess what happened? In 2019, 2021, autopilot in highways became very, very effective, very useful. There was that one moment, right, but it just kind of flipped and became better. It's the full self-driving part, which is city streets. That's the one that people thought that, we're going to be able to do these coast-to-coast drives in the U.S. That they were going to prove, and that never did happen. But that was the goal.
In the comments, what I want to know is, what do you think of the terms full self-driving and autopilot? And what is the basis of that understanding? Now, you haven't seen lawsuits against Honda for calling it Copilot. You haven't seen, Toyota, I think, calls it ProPilot, or someone does. Well, I don't have a professional pilot with me in the car. I want my money back. Yeah. That's ridiculous. And in the article, it also says, well, then people using these systems got into crashes. It was something like 14 deaths attributable to someone using while the vehicle was in autonomous mode. And I saw that number and I said, that's great. That's amazing.
Exactly.
That's such a low death rate. That's so much better than humans. Now, maybe those particular people wouldn't have died, but that's impossible to know. I'm not here to discuss chaos theory, but a lower death count is good. Getting to zero may not be possible in our lifetimes as long as other vehicles exist on the road. Right. The other thing I did want to point out is there's a big misunderstanding about it. They say, well, no, I've heard this too many times. When Tesla detects it's about to get in an accident, it disengages FSD and now it's your fault. If FSD can see an accident coming, it's going to hit the brakes. The brakes is what it's going to hit. And it still counts disengagement. It counts it as its fault, I believe, 10 seconds after it disengages. So 10 seconds. At highway speeds, you're going, what would that be? A mile? No, a sixth of a mile. So you're going 900 feet. You're going the length of 3 football fields before it counts as your fault instead of its. Guys, do better. So it's very ridiculous. One thing I'm looking forward to is the day when they increase the speed limit for FSD, which is currently at 85. And I've seen people say, 85? Who the heck needs to go that fast? There's a lot of highways with speed limits of 80 and even 85. And if you're on the San Antonio Expressway going 85, stated 85, which is actually 84, you're going to annoy a lot of drivers behind you, grandma. So that's something that will come in time. Yeah.
Have you heard that quote that people say that, I don't know who said this, right? That said something like, if technologies in the future, it will be indistinguishable from magic, right?
Yes.
And so this technology, some people think it's magic, which is, oh, you must be fraud. It's all crap. There's impossible to have a car drive itself. It's impossible to have a hardware bot do tasks and learn and speak to you. And so these things just were, it's impossible to have a level of AI that can actually pass a Turing test and fake it as if it's a human. And people would say that Ray Kurzweil wrote a book and said that AI will pass a Turing test by 2026 and it will be AGI by 2021 or whatever, 2029. And 99% of all AI experts at the time said you are off by magnitudes. It won't happen for 500 years, 1,000 years. And of course, every decade you watch that survey of AI experts and they keep bringing it back. And then eventually they're at 2050 or something like that. And now it's like, oops, you're right. You turned out to be dead on. So even the AI experts will say it's magic. You're not telling the truth. You must be lying.
If you look at a lot of AI, it's like that. The first time you saw a really good quality image generator or video generator
you don't believe
or
that
music
this was
generator,
created. You think that somebody faked it or they did it, right?
Unless you're able to go use it yourself, put in your own prompts and see that, yes, that is what it generated. It seems, I wouldn't believe it either. The only people, and I'm not going to name names, who have seen FSD in action, who still call it a fraud, are those who have a vested interest in Tesla's failure. So, and, it'll dawn on them eventually, but it's not an honest approach. So I do think it's unfortunate for the early adopters. I think it would be better from a PR perspective if Tesla just allowed FSD transfer until it's complete. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a successful lawsuit on behalf of the small number of early adopters who paid full price and drove their cars the full life of the vehicles and never got the benefit. But that amount of money would not be consequential to Tesla today. Even if they had to refund all purchases from 2017 to 2019. But then again, courts can go crazy sometimes, Herbert. I imagine you may have noticed.
Yes, I've noticed.
So guys, in the comments, what did we miss? What do we misunderstand? Leave it for us. Head on over to Brighter. See what he's up to. He's always got some great stuff going on there. Next week, we will be doing a live stream covering the earnings call. That's going to be a whole lot of fun. So please come back and check it out. Everybody else, like, subscribe, stay tuned and juicy and all that good stuff. And I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots on the flippity flop.